Okay. This is Sir Gallagher, Canadian bred Trakehner Percheron thoroughbred, as far as I know. He is strictly dressage. Started out jumping and was not successful at it because he's very spooky.
Right.
And he's my competition horse.
Right. Right.
And I have taken him out, you know, on an occasional trail ride or this or that, and we've survived.
Right. I hear you.
And he, you know, but he is a beautiful gait, beautiful mover, emotionally very high strung.
Okay.
Very scared.
Health issues on him?
No, he's very healthy.
How long have you had him?
I've had him for 9 years.
Okay. Okay. Well, just looking at him.
So his age, he's about 16.
He's 16. Okay. He is to me like the classic water horse. Just a noble, just a beautiful animal. Has a lot of presence, obviously a lot of intelligence, but yet not the confidence and the courage to do something like jumping. Now, a water horse can be a jumper, and they can do. They're very generally the water horse is very athletic, and so they can do a lot of events. But if they don't have a rider that they can have total trust in, they are not going to be able to excel. So had he had a rider that he totally trusted, he might have been more successful in jumping. But the dressage is just perfect place for him to be, because he gets to show off his elegance, and it's not threatening.
Yes.
There's nothing scary in there, and he obviously trusts you very well. And it takes a certain kind of person to do well with a water horse, because many people are, Phoebe says, that's so right, I've finally found the right person. So many people with a water horse, when the horse starts to get a little nervous, they get nervous. And what happens is you can have a water horse and they get frightened so many times that it's almost like you have a nervous breakdown.
Yes.
And at that point, that's the point that then people will take them to the trainer and say, fix this horse.
Oh.
And I've got a friend of mine that's a trainer, and she's gotten several horses like that, and the horse comes to her and he's just a complete nervous wreck. The rider's totally afraid of the horse, and then her job is supposedly to make this horse completely gentle and be right for this rider. It's not going to work, and she will say things like, I don't know how anyone can have a water horse, but it's because she only gets to see them when they're messed up.
Yep.
But a horse like this, for someone that wants to have a horse that they want to, do an event such as dressage, where they want the partnership, this is the kind of horse that can go to the Olympics, do the musical freestyle, and have the crowd on their feet at just the elegance of it, and the partnership, and almost like the telepathic communication. And this is for someone that wants to, you'll see some of those, I can't remember the name that they call, where some of the people that are doing a lot of work with no halter or
bridleless,
bridleless,
bareback.
Yeah, this is the horse that under control, in an arena where there's, that's the kind of relationship. This is the kind of horse that will do that and not take advantage of you, and will.
And he doesn't get bored. He loves the repetition. I can do 20-meter circles all day on him. You do one 20-meter circle on Sue, and he's like, okay,
it's not scary, and he's doing it with you, and he's doing it beautifully. And yeah, so this is kind of horse for someone that really wants to have a horse that total partnership, that wants to do something where where beauty and elegance is what you're after.
And he doesn't need, unlike Pussycats, fire water. I get the sense the water doesn't need that, oh, good boy, constantly. He sort of just likes being with you. And
all he needs from you is safety.
Safety, yes.
He
I
needs
agree.
He needs to be in a safe environment, that something's not going to be thrown at him that he can't handle. The best way to get a water horse confident is to expose them to all the scary things in a controlled environment.
Okay.
And if you, do, like you said, you go on the trail and you survive it, that's not a safe environment for him.
Right.
But this is kind of horse that some of the, like trail obstacles and things, that you could, if it takes you 3 hours to get him up to walk over a tarp or something.
But it was good for him. He's going to start to build more
confidence. That's what you're doing with these
Because
guys.
I think that's my biggest problem, the training issue is how do you, and everybody's in the horse world, how do you deal with spookiness? You know, because you can't train every situation in the world. You can't change the horse, but how do you just more and more togetherness and exposure?
For the water horse, you do it at home.
Okay.
And that's not for every type.
Okay.
For the water horse, you do it at home with patience, you build their confidence, you teach them to respond rather than to react.
And stay with you.
And stay with you.
Okay.
And then by staying with you and them overcoming their fears, then they start to think, well, I can do this.
Okay.
So they become less dependent on you.
Right.
But they've got to start with, now, you know, not to say the water horse, when they're born, they aren't necessarily born fearful. But the first time that something happens that their trust is lost, that's when that starts to build and snowball.
Yeah.
So that's, I think dressage could not be a more perfect event.
Okay. Okay. And just what we're just schooling at home or doing little things and stuff like that.
Right.
Because that would be my only source of frustration is when he does completely overact, which he has even here. You know, one of those woke up on the wrong side of the stall days, and the littlest thing sets him off. He does. He checks out, and he ran all the way down to the back 40. You know, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna wait for you to come back this way. I'm not walking 2 miles to go get you. Where Sue, or you know, who lived out in the wild, you'd think, okay, as soon as he got away, he'd be gone and never come back. He went like 2 feet and stood, and you know, he doesn't check out.
I mean, even though he's 16 years old, and you think, oh, well, he should be over that by now.
Sure.
I mean, I have a feeling that had this horse not come to you, one of those episodes of him freaking out, he would have gotten hurt or somebody else would have gotten hurt.
Yeah.
So you're having to bring him back from his terror that he had when he was younger, and he will just get better and better as he gets older and older.
Good. And I have a question between the difference between Pussycat's spook, like, the fire water. Now, Pussycat, for instance, doesn't, you know, spook at anything. So now, if water might be more sensitive or fearful, is Pussycat's fear completely internalized? I mean, we're still dealing with fear because we have water.
You have the water in there, but you have, you know, more of a
or is he just a really unique case too?
No, I think with the fire water, you have more of that attachment to, you know, to people, and it's just not as reactive.
Okay.
Yeah, they are more an insecurity about doing the right thing and is everything going to be okay. They don't reach straight for I gotta get out of here.
Right.
I gotta get out of here and then think later.
Right.
They will, you know, take a little bit more time and think about it. But, you know, a water horse that from day one has been handled well, they will be more like, you know, Pussycat was, more just looking to you for help. But unfortunately, this guy has a learned reactiveness.
Yes.
And that's a hard thing that's why my friend says, please never send me another water horse. Because you can't, it's much easier to instill the self-confidence in them when they're young than to put it back into them once they have been terrorized through, you know, having lack of a partner that they can count on and having lots of bad things happen.
Yes, and then the very first horse, Magic, we said was water and fire.
Right.
And he, again, old baggage, you know, was like terrified of a tractor when it drives by. You know, and the Mustangs, because they were never exposed to it, were scared of it. And he's not afraid of the tractor driving by. They'll stand right there. So how, and his spookiness is less reactive than Gallagher, but he is hotter. You know, he might spook at something, where Gallagher can spook at anything, and Pussycat just doesn't internalize it. So how would it, if you had a Magic, a water fire horse versus a water horse, what is sort of my biggest deal breaker on deciding if they're true water?
That's a good question, but then you also have to consider the different breeds. And the different, like a Mustang being a prey animal, they are going to spook.
Yes.
And ask questions later, whereas the more domesticated horse that's grown up in a safe environment where, you know, they're
Right.
not going to have a bobcat jumping on their
Right.
head. They're even a water horse that's like I say, that's never had anything really bad happen. So that's a little, you would have to take the full history.
Right, but here we have the flip, because here's the domestic horse, the water horse that spooks at everything.
Right.
And the Mustang is not afraid.
Right.
And then the quarter horse thoroughbred, he's sort of right in the middle. So we have
Mhm.
water fire water, and water.
Right. And, you know, with this guy, with him just being, you know, straight water, fear is going to be his,
Right.
his top, that's going to be his top emotion that he's going
Okay.
to reach for.
And then
First,
water
and
fire.
when you get the fire in there, you bring in more of a, and this is where the nuances between the emotions, you bring in more of an anxiety than a straight fear.
Okay.
So that's where they're gonna get more, you know, they may still spook, but then they're gonna be going, oh my God, what was it, what was it, oh my God, what was it?
Okay.
Whereas the water horse is just like gonna be out of
Oh,
there,
out.
like, I'm just gonna die.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
flipped straight into
Yeah.
to fight
Yeah.
or flight,
Would-
my life is over.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
the fire's gonna have more of an anxiousness, but not quite flip the switch so
Yes,
quickly.
and because Magic, if he spooks, he sort of just twitches and then he
Mhm.
stops. Or if he's getting, it's fearful's not the right word, but if he's getting hot,
Mhm.
it's almost like his past training
Right.
was, you have to go 9-0 to do the job right, and we were trying to explain to him, no, you don't have to do the job right, you don't have to go 9-0, you can do it relaxed.
Mhm.
So he, you know, he gets over it quicker.
Right.
Where
Right.
Gallagher, you know, it's like there for a week now.
Yeah, you know, fear is
Okay.
there, that's
Okay.
their default.
Okay.
you know,
But,
so-
but when the fire is mixed in there, take it, it's gonna be slightly different.
Well,
It's interesting,
isn't also the Taiyongs, their thing is forward motion.
they handle everything with forward motion. It's interesting, this guy has no health issues,
Yeah.
because his fear is dealt with.
That's exactly.
Yeah, whereas there's not that ongoing anxiety that is held inside.
Right.
And so if he can keep him from damaging himself in his overreaction,
Yes.
he's not going to internalize things quite in now they can, you know, they can end up with some ulcers and things if the
Sure.
fear is an ongoing
Sure.
thing. But they're more likely to get it out in the open.
And look at our water fire and our fire water. They're the two horses that I've had to have surgery on.
Right. The most
The only two
health
horses in the
issues-
whole barn that have had the most health issues.
Right, exactly.
That's interesting.
It is very interesting. So that's maybe where you're going to be able to tell apart the straight water. Now, I do know some straight waters. If the stress continues and the fear continues, they can go big time into the ulcers. But they're, you know, I think that anytime you've got the fire element in there, the digestion is going to show up for you pretty quick.
Okay. But it might temper the straight fear of water where you have more, where you don't have the total spooky horse.
Right, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
It's a good one.
But I think that is interesting. Water, fire, water, fire. I mean, how did the guy, yeah,
And,
that's three
yeah,
right there.
like she said, the water fire, the Taiyang, they're going to handle everything. And if allowed to move, that's where you're going to get into problems with them. If you're trying to shut down their movement,
Yep.
like I was saying,
Yep.
fight with them all the time,
Yep.
then it goes downhill
Yep.
from there. But that's their, you know, that's their outlet, how to handle their stress.
Okay. Cool.